Oh, this class was the worst though, because I was kind of the worst that Tuesday, and I went 3 hours. I didn't even have a fighting chance at sleeping that night. My throat was on fire. Oh, it was so miserable.
Why did you do that? I think we were all kind of miserable that night.
Well, no, you're miserable every class, so I usually have fun.
I mean, like, you shouldn't every class being the most miserable, is what I'm saying.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, you should not get good things.
You don't have to
because of
sacrifice
us.
your entire life for the rest.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's happening here. This is all about, yeah, we just wanted a week off.
Who said that?
Because you know what would have happened is I would have still given you the assignment. You just wouldn't have had a solution leading up to it.
It would have been just as hard as it was.
This assignment was trivial. Man, this one this week? Oh, it's way worse. I don't know what it is yet, but I promise you by 10 o'clock tonight, I'll have something horrible. All right. Speaking of which, what was the homework? It was the one you click on. You click on airport. It shows you direct flights from the airport. You click on one of those dudes. It shows you direct flights from there.
Yep.
Right? And then rinse, lather, repeat.
Yep.
All right. What does my app do right now? Check that. Why does that happen? Reload. What did he say? On the cruise, there was this guy, I think his name was Chad Cheswick. He was like a comedian magician or something. So he's a magician, but he was funny. And I don't know, maybe it was just the night, but it was one of the funniest guys I've seen ever.
Wait, who is that?
I think his name is Chad Cheswick.
Hold on, let me look him up.
So do Chad Cheswick magician. And the thing was that I've seen better magicians and I've seen better comedians. But just his shtick was just fun. Like you almost didn't stop laughing. And it wasn't like it was that amazing. It just was good enough to like just keep you entertained for an hour. And then, you know, he had like little stupid things, you know, what?
Did you go to any wine bars?
Oh, I was really disappointed in the wine bar on the ship, actually.
Why?
That was like, there was never anybody there. It was just a whole different kind
You're
of,
always alone anyway?
huh?
Aren't you always
No, like not even somebody there to serve you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was just a different kind of wine bar than there's typically are on cruises.
Chad Cheswick obituary.
Yeah, it's not. I think that's his name, Chad
Well,
Cheswick.
you did kill it then.
Well, what's weird is I showed my wife I showed her a video last week of it, and it was entertaining, but not anywhere near as entertaining as it was the first time around. Yeah, it was just something about his, like, because I had already seen the act. It's like one of those acts that's really good when you see it the first time, but when you've seen it already, you already know the shtick. Most of his lines fall flat, but it was pretty entertaining the first time around. Although I just have a broken thing. Just create me a new pixel. Oh man, this is a different picture and everything.
Because it's white instead of black?
Yeah, and a new version of the OS on there too. API 27 instead of 23. Oh, if you want another good story in the cruise, ask. No, not right now. Could ask me at the break. Ask me about Nick and his Nick and the wine steward. That'll be enough to remind me.
Now, Nick Schumacher, he's the kid that didn't pass his senior exam, right? And he had to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who that is.
All right, so I click on airport lists. This is going to take a second to load. So this is reading in from our database right now, right? Okay, so this gives us this whole big list of things. I can go ahead and filter on this, and then I can pick the one that comes out of that. So when I click on that, now it's hitting that website and getting all the direct flights from there. And we want these to be clickable so that if I click on Atlanta here, it goes to the same page again showing me direct flights from Atlanta. That was the homework assignment? All right, so let's start by making these dudes clickable. What's the name of that page there? Is that detail, airport activity, network, flippy, click, click. Man, my right eye is not working at all. I know, it sucks. This one? All right, and we want to go ahead and add a listener to that guy. Remind me here, what is this add listener for single value event? What was the significance of that guy? This is back in our airport list activity when we went ahead and grabbed our database reference, and then we said add listener for single value event. What are we actually doing here? And how is that different than what we had done with our previous database value event listeners?
It's a single load. So you're asking Firebase to send you a node one time and only one time.
Yeah. So we're not continually listening for updates. We're saying, I want some data and that's it. Don't bother me again. All right? Because that's really what we wanted here, is we just wanted a dump of that data. All right, so here is our set on item listener dealy flippy thingamajiggy for our list views. So we want to do the same thing here for our, I'm just going to steal this piece in our detail guy here. So we have this dot destination list view. Well, it doesn't matter what order you put it in, but it needs to be somewhere up here where you're setting your stuff. All right, now.
Saying it just has to be an on-create? Or does it have to be?
Well, it doesn't actually have to be an on-create. It just has to be set sometime before you expect it to react on you clicking it. I mean, you could have a button that says activate listener, and you can have that button set this guy up if you wanted to. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give myself a variable to access myself. So this is airport detail activity, and we'll call it myself. And we'll say this dot myself is equal to this. That way we have access to a pointer to ourselves when we are inside of this instance of on item click listener. Where we do not have access, well, we do have access to this. This is just not the this that we want it to be. This is an instance of on item click listener, not of our airport detail activity. All right, so for right now, actually, it's like pretty much, well, it's almost pretty much done. I'm just going to actually comment these things out for right now. For right now, when we select something, I want to go ahead and grab the string of the guy we selected, right? So if we look at our screen here, when I click on this guy right here, I want to grab that string Atlanta space ATL. Right? All right. Now those guys are stored. Here's my network code. Where's my array adapter? Okay, so it's this linked list thing here. This guy, LL, is the linked list that has those dudes in it. So when I click on one of those things, it's LL dot get. So let's say string selected airport is equal to LL dot get position. Oh, interesting. Because this is a class inside of a function in another class, it wants this guy to be declared as final, like this. I could also just make it global. So if I didn't want to deal with final here, I could say I'll make it global to this class, and then inside here I can just say LL, get position. So it just dealt with the scope of my linked list. All right, so when I click on something, this tells me, hello. When I click on something, it tells me the position I clicked on. I'm gonna go ahead and pass that position into my linked list and ask him for that string. I'll store that string there. We go ahead and just print that out, system.out.println, selected airport, and I'll put a couple of asterisks in front of that guy. And we'll run this, proving that we are able to grab one of those guys. Man, our homework's basically done. We're like 3 lines of code from being done. Where's lock at? There we go. Nope. No, I don't have to build a new activity. I'm just going to launch the current activity again. Yeah. That's how it's going to work. Yeah, we're still 3 lines. We're good. So, my airport list, filter on Milwaukee. There's this guy. And then I'm going to, once this pops up, I'll click on something. So I'll click on Cleveland. So I clicked on Cleveland. It shows me that string it read in. Cleveland, CLE. These guys here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I want to split that. So I'm going to say string array, call this parts. This is going to be selected airport dot split on, well, I can split it on, splitting that might give me more than 2 parts though. Yeah, it's not gonna be. I'm just trying to do it in a fancy way. It's easy enough to get. Are all of these? See, the thing is, there's multiple spaces here. There. Well, I can. Okay. But we also we have some trimming here. So what he's saying is, I can do this. I can say find the index of. Actually, what I could do is I can reverse it, take the first 3, then reverse it again. If I want to, without having to play with spaces, is the punchline here. Let me try doing this. So I'm going to say split. I'll split on spaces. It'll probably work. What I think wanted to say here is I want to split on white space. there is a white space. All right, and then what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to parts.length. Let's just see what the length of that is. I expect it to be 2, but I want it to be 2, but I suspect it might be more since this would be bucket 0, then a space, and then bucket 1 would be another space, but it probably does ignore all those. It just gives you the 2 parts.
So I just realized I think there's going to be a problem with that because is that not going to give you 3 different buckets if you do like New Orleans
Yeah.
or New York?
Yeah.
Or
So like Fort Lauderdale, it'll give me the wrong parts, but the very last piece. So it's not a problem. It's always just going to be the very last piece. So with that in mind, what I'm saying is I can say parts at bucket parts.length -1. That's the last element in that array. And then I can say .trim if I want to get the spaces off of it. So let's just prove this is giving me the airport code no matter which airport I click on. So I'm splitting on spaces into an array called parts. Then I'm going to say, give me the very last element of that array, which should be my airport code. And then trim it in case there's any extra spaces at the end of that guy. So this should always give me my airport code. Ugh. All right, so we'll try Atlanta. That gives us ATL. We'll try Cleveland, CLE. We'll try Fort Lauderdale, FLL, Kansas City. All right, so this is working. We've tested it on every little possible thing. It always works, 100%. All right, so that's our airport code. Is equal to that dude. And I'll just steal those 4 lines. Don't need that line. And the extra will be the airport code I just read in. Just like that. So that's the whole homework assignment. Grab the string that we clicked on, split it into parts, grab the last part, which is the airport code, create an intent to load airport detail activity, the same screen we're on right now. Add as an extra to that guy, airport code, the airport code we parsed out of there, start that activity. So this should do it.
I was having trouble getting it to, or putting in as the airport code, so I had to create another activity, so I passed it through core, and then reloaded a separate page because we're loading that airport code into the initial.
But didn't we load airport codes here?
Yeah, I was just having, for some reason, I wasn't able to pass that new airport code that or that string, airport code, like the put extra.
Okay.
So I'm saying this is better. This is what I was trying to do.
This is definitely better.
Yeah.
So it must have been how you wrote your previous assignment. Maybe the way you wrote your previous assignment was the problem. If you didn't pass the airport code to this screen this way, you didn't give yourself the ability to keep passing it. This is actually a good reason not to put it up in core. Because if you put it up in core, then you only have, at any one point in time, one airport code. In this case, every individual intent that was used to create another screen. So for instance, right now, when I'm on this screen, an intent exists that has as an extra an airport code. And that airport code is MKE. Make sense? So now if I come in here, I click on Charlotte. Now that exact same activity type was created that has an extra, called airport code, that's equal to CLT. This guy's
So are
gonna.
you killing the activities? Because that's what I did. I did,
I haven't killed it.
When I relaunch, I would call finish and then relaunch the activity.
Mm-mm.
So you're leaving them up.
Yeah, right now it's still up.
Okay. So when you were talking with Maddie about hitting the back button, is that why the back button would work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought, I don't know, I was just thinking like old school. Like I was like, oh, I gotta make sure to like kill these things before I relaunch.
So like right now, I have this screen twice. One is showing me the direct flights from Milwaukee. One is showing me the direct flights to, I don't know, whatever airport this is. We might want to put an extra thing up there, so because we don't all have the airport codes memorized. Like MKE, I know that one. And Chicago O'Hare, everybody know that one? Yeah, ORD. Fort Lauderdale, FLL. ATL for Atlanta. What's up? Yeah, Milwaukee St. Paul. Oh, Minneapolis.
So I missed because I was trying to get my Firebase resynced up with my app. So you're just relaunching your activity, so your airport detail activity or whatever your destination is. That's what I did. I just would relaunch it. I'd have like.
Well, I'm not relaunching. I'm launching new versions of it.
Oh, you're launching new versions of it.
Yeah. So an activity I have right now. Since I just clicked again, I have 3 instances of airport. What is it called? Airport detail. Airport detail activity. I have 3 instances of airport detail activity launched. My first one was Milwaukee. My second one was whatever it is. My third one here is Atlanta.
Okay.
So
Oh, I see. Sure.
I'll let this. And the way activities live in an Android app is they're stacked on top of each other. So I'll let this guy finish. But if I hit back here, it'll destroy the top activity going back to my previous screen, which is the one that was it Charlotte? Is that what STL was? CTL rather. Yeah, so here's Atlanta. Look how many direct flights there are from Atlanta. So if I click back, there's my Charlotte. If I click back, there's my Milwaukee. If I click back, it's going to just show me my list of filtered
Yeah,
stuff.
so I was following like what I could come through on Google, and so like I declared I made like a myself, and I said okay, I declared an intent up at the top on create, and I said okay, like I want to get intent is equal to get intent, so I could get the current activity.
Yeah.
So I think I'm actually reinstantiating it by how I'm doing it. Is that what the intent would do? Would it like recreate the same activity, or would it initialize?
That's what I did right here. I created an intent around my airport detail activity.
Correct, but I'm grabbing the original intent. So I'm refreshing the current screen in my code. That's how I'm doing it.
Well, which is fine, but then you lose the ability of
Then
going
I
back.
I can't go back.
Yeah.
I'm just it's a one-way
Yeah.
rabbit hole. You can't
You're overwriting. You're changing the current thing. I mean, because we could have done that here, right? At that point, you didn't even need to.
Tell them I'm overwriting that. I do that
Yeah.
all the
Well, at
time.
this point, you didn't even need to change the intent. I mean, because when this guy first launches inside of onCreate, what do we do? Here's our array adapter. Where do I start my network code stuff? Yeah. This is the guy right here that actually goes and retrieves that stuff. Isn't it?
Correct.
So
Oh, I see what you're saying. I could have just.
I just pass it a different airport code and say go to town.
Sure. No, that's true.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to see that version, just as a, let me do. Here, I'm going to move this stuff up higher. I'll just put it right there. And then where's my airport code? Yeah, so I have my airport code. I set the text. Here's my network thread NT. Just so it'll work, it's going to want me to make that guy final because I'm going to call it in here. So then instead of this stuff, I could say ll.remove all. Was it ll.clear? And then I can say nt. Oh, Oh, I need to tell that guy to start again, so I'll just say nt.start. I don't need this to be final because I'm going to need a new version of this anyways. So I'll clear out my linked list, and then I'll say where's my AA here? So I'll just start another network thread and tell it to go and fill that guy back up. So when I click on something, I'll grab the airport code, I'll clear my current link list, and then tell my network thread to retrieve the things for that new one. That'll keep me on this exact same page, but update the stuff on that exact same page with the new things. I'm also technically not, I need to do one more thing here. Run it one more time. I need to update the airport code in the text view. All right, so this is it for Milwaukee. And then as soon as I click on something, what am I going to do? I'm going to dump my link list. So nothing's in my link list, which will make my array adapter empty out this list. Then I'll set the text to my new airport codes, whatever I select. Then I'll start my network thread with this updated airport code, my old array adapter, my new link list, and tell that guy to go fill it. Call start on it. It's taking forever.
If you stack activities on it, so you're starting to intent, is it waiting for, if you keep clicking on it, is it still loading the previous screen at all? Or, I mean, granted, if you can click on it, they're all loaded.
Your previous screen is still getting CPU time.
Okay, it is, okay. Is that a downside to stacking them on top of each other?
Well, it depends. I mean, it can be. Depends on what functionality you're looking for in your app. Yeah, this is just the slowness thing, right? It's still loading.
I put a progress bar in mine so it spins.
Is it accurate?
Yeah, it literally goes. Then when after flight's run comes back, it turns it off. Makes the user think something important is happening.
Sucks. You shouldn't be sharing these secrets.
Hey, tricks of the trade. It's fine. It's fine. When literally all it is just a little bit. Over and over and over. Lots of computation going on. Just wait.
Let me make sure I have all my stuff here before
Android Studio already installed you once today.
Oh my god.
I make that guy final.
It's on Android Studio. Don't want to talk about it. Talk about it.
It doesn't like me. It's like these guys are conflicting with each other because before I had this code down here. This is all that stuff running on the different threads. Come on. It's good that we're going to write a caching thing today. Why is that taking so long?
You're not on the guest Wi-Fi again, are you?
That's a good, reasonable question. No? Try running it once more. So it's definitely hitting Firebase quickly. And this is all the kind of things you were getting when it was running slow. Just make sure flights from still works. Runs fast enough there. It's like the app is running into gridlock on the operating system. Like it just can't get enough time on the CPU to finish getting the stuff. Maybe that's a side effect of me launching 3 activities. Let me stop that. Let's kill off my emulator. I'll restart it. So we definitely need to cache this. Well, no, this is unrelated to that. In fact, the other way might have been what caused it to run out of memory. Because I'm not loading these guys any differently. File not found exception.
Oh, it's got quotation.
Yeah. Oh. I didn't bring that one extra line up. Where's our... This is the... Where's my detail screen? Yeah, this guy here. So this guy here needs to be right there.
At one point.
All right, so there's our list of guys there. So now, if I click on something like Dallas-Fort Worth, it's going to clear out my link list. Well, it'll grab what I clicked on. It'll get the spaces or get the airport code out of that. Clear out my link list, set the text to Dallas-Fort Worth here, and then run my network thing again. So there's Dallas-Fort Worth. This guy is now loading the new one, so you don't necessarily know it's loading, but it is. Row.
I did that, but then I just opened it again and it worked.
I wonder why it would do that. I think probably AA.notified dataset changed. That will update that. Then we'll set the text. I think this should do it. Yeah. So there's Cleveland. Populate here in a second. And then there's Denver. So this is kind of your version of doing this, where it's all on a single screen, and just that single screen is updating its list view.
Correct. Right. Except that, like, trashing the activity instead of just doing the list view and telling the adapter to change.
Mm-hmm.
I went an extra step, and so I said, okay, shut down, restart.
Yeah.
And I would pack in the extra each time, so I put the code in, so I put extra, so that way we could restart it.
Yep.
Find it. So. But yeah, no, the way that you have it where you're just instantiating a bunch of times makes sense. That way there's a history the user can browse backwards through.
Well, plus it's going to let us accomplish our next step, which is kind of keeping, if we're kind of building a trip, like I want to go from here to here, I want to go from here to here, and then all of a sudden like, oh, well, I can't get where I want to go from here, so let's go back once and let's jump here, and then I can get to here. You know, so you can kind of build a, build your hops that way. Okay, so let me go back to my version of this. Grab my airport code here. All right, so this should be the version that lets you do the hops. So really the homework assignment is that. All right, so questions on that guy? Make reasonable sense? Just Make sure I can do a couple hops here. So now I want to start thinking about this. So right now I just clicked and I'm loading MKE. Now, obviously, this is starting to become a hassle, right? That it's taking so long for those load. That wasn't so bad, but it's a little bit annoying that we have to wait so long, right? Especially if we want to start playing the game of like, oh, I want to go from here to here. No, let's go back one. So what it might make sense to do is as we click on airports, if that airport already has had its destinations cached, we can just grab those rather than reparse the site. Does that make sense? So right now I've pulled in all of the destinations Milwaukee goes to, correct? I have this. I could take one additional step right now and say, I'm going to go ahead and write that to Firebase. So Firebase has all my Milwaukee airport destinations built into it. Now, we probably would want to have some sort of refresh button somewhere. Like if we become aware that there's a new airline that came into Milwaukee or something, we might want to say, go ahead and let's dump the old cache and let's let it go ahead and take a little more time and reload once again to give me my updated list of direct flights. Because direct flights do change from time to time. 90% of them probably stay the same. Some of them are seasonal. I don't know what it's giving us on this site, whether this is direct flights anytime during the year.
So you essentially load this into Firebase?
Yeah. So right now I just pulled this from the website.
Right. So you're wanting to load every single nonstop flight from every airport possible?
Only when we clicked on it. So as we've clicked on them, if that airport's already cached. So it's only slow the first time, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So we could go through the effort of going through and loading every single airport. We could do that and just let the computer cook, right? But since we want to have the ability for it to reload anyways, in the event that you want to get the newest version of direct flights, what we can do is just say the first time you visit an airport, it will take a little longer for the direct flights to load. But future visits to that guy, we won't screen scrape it. Instead, we'll check Firebase first and say, do you have the direct flights for MKE? If yes, then I'll grab them from Firebase, not from screen scraping.
Okay. So but then the next day it's going to be a different data set probably.
Not necessarily. I don't think direct flights change daily. Okay. Yeah, chances are, the direct flights, I don't know what they're giving us here. What is Milwaukee? Atlanta, that's year-round. Cancun is definitely seasonal. And I actually don't even think it's right now. I don't think there's a direct flight from Milwaukee to Cancun right now. It would make sense that there would be, but for some reason I think I've looked and there's not. Yeah.
They do have
Okay.
Aeromexico and Delta.
Charlotte's all the time. Chicago's all the time. Cleveland's all the time. Dallas. Denver, Detroit, Raleigh, Durham. Those are all the time. Fort Lauderdale, that's not year-round. Fort Lauderdale doesn't always have a direct flight. Probably does right now because of spring break time. But guarantee there's not a direct flight to Fort Lauderdale in July. It's not high season for leaving comfortable summer Milwaukee to, hell on earth, Southeast Florida. Ever been to Southeast Florida in July?
Hot.
Well, it's actually not just hot. It's like the humidity is ridiculous. The only place that I've been to that's been worse is New Orleans.
I've heard that's good.
I've been
I've been
New Orleans was insane.
It was hot and humid.
Fort Myer, I think, is usually Guadalajara. Who wants to go there?
somewhere new.
Yeah, where is Guadalajara?
That's in Mexico.
That can't be a direct flight all the time, unless is that near Mexico City? Is that the Mexico City airport? Doesn't sound right to me, but it's possible.
No, it's not even close. It's in
Vegas is always direct flight. Los Angeles always. So, these change from time to time. I'm not sure how up to date this thing is, but we can give ourselves a manual button that says, I don't want to use my cache. I want to refresh my cache. But it would be nice from a clicky perspective that when we click on one of these airports, so if I click on Atlanta here, the first thing it does is it says, is this airport cached? Right? And if it is, it'll grab it from Firebase rather than grab it from the website.
Is there a way that you could automatically, like, so say you wanted to refresh the cache every day, let's say in the morning, like, I don't know, 1 a.m., something like that. Because
You mean in the database to kind of keep Firebase up to date?
So like Firebase automatically.
You wouldn't want to do it with this.
Right.
Yeah, because we're approaching this from a single user perspective, right?
Okay.
Where the reality is that based on how this is working right now, we're kind of distributing the work of keeping our database up to date. Because if I search for Milwaukee now and it gets cached, and then later on tonight you use the same app and you search for Milwaukee, you're going to be using my cached version of it. So you gain the advantage of my speed.
So we're using each other's computing powers.
To some extent, yeah. So, the one thing you might do is if you're really doing keep in mind that this trip builder we're creating right now doesn't necessarily allow us to pick a date. If you go out 6 months or something like that, I promise you there's not a direct flight to Fort Lauderdale. Well, probably 6 months there might be, but you go out 3 months, there will not be a direct flight to Fort Lauderdale. That's a common destination for me. There's not one in July. So, with that in mind, you might want to have that ability to say, look, I want to update these flights for right now because I don't know what the scoop is. And if I go in here, I don't know if it lets us choose. Yeah, here's departure. Oh, it does let you choose dates. Oh, that's next step.
Because, yeah. Couldn't you...
Let's look at July. What happens to, so if I hit apply, what happens to my...
Is there scripts that you can run strictly for Firebase, or does that like have to be from a centralized like computer or something that would like say, so say like we have a Firebase that everybody's app is going to be accessing. Would we need to have some sort of processor that would be updating with Firebase?
Well, we could have a secondary server that just kind of updates it as it goes along. Might be overkill for this.
Yeah, for this.
You might just allow, but you could. Okay. Yeah. This is interesting. So when I put in, so 45 is, what does that even represent, 45? Duration from 45, duration to 315.
Day of the year? No, that'd be too far.
Yeah, but I said choose, this is a specific date. So I went in here and I chose July 2019, and I'll choose the 10th. Oh, that's interesting. So is this 45, 315? Is that just a... What is that? I want to force that to change somehow.
You've got a flight time, 43 minutes to 313 minutes. It looks like it corresponds to that. So if you take that slider, it's up above.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So really what that's showing me is these are flight lengths. So I wonder if I take that piece off, will that allow me to just show on a certain date? This is July 10th. Yep, and it doesn't make any decision about flight times. Very nice. Man, your homework is getting a lot clearer to me. It's so good. All right, so let's do some caching first to speed it up some. But man, even the caching is so when we choose a specific date, we probably want to automatically ignore cache. So cache is kind of like if I'm looking at just direct flights-ish, something like that. All right, well, let's solve the problem of caching first. So I'll commit this code. Caching should be pretty easy. So what we want to do is inside of our database, we want to have a cache area. Oh. Okay, where's my database? All right, so right now my database looks like this. So I have this world airports thing that has a whole bunch of crap in it. Now what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to have a destination cache endpoint. And maybe in that destination cache endpoint, I have airport codes and then the strings associated with it for that information. That way I have both the name and the airport code for the destinations, because if you look at this guy here, it's Atlanta space ATL, Baltimore / BWI, so on and so forth. So what I want to do here is when I click on Atlanta, I want it to say, is that already cached? If it's not, I want to cache it. So I'll overwrite what's currently there, and from this, and then add it to my local cache. So what I want to do is right at the very beginning, I want to do a one-time grab of all of my caches, which is going to be nothing at first, right? So let's do it this way. See, airport. Yeah, I don't need to build them into full-fledged airports, I don't think, but I do need to have a data structure for holding names lists. So let's call this, we're going to create a new class, maybe called airport cache. And an airport will have a airport code, and then it'll have a linked list of strings associated with it, which is the cached data. And we probably want to represent those guys as airport strings. Yeah, strings already work. That's fine. So I'll right click on this guy. I'm going to say new Java class. And this is going to be called airport cache. Airport code cache. Let's do that. Airport code cache. All right. And airport code cache is going to have a private string airport code. And then it's going to have a private linked list of strings. We'll call this destinations. And then we'll write a constructor. This guy will take in a string airport code. All right, and then we'll go ahead and instantiate our linked list. All right, so that's what an airport code cache object will be by default. Now, what we want to do is we want to ask the question. I think I want to grab these all at the beginning just for speed. So when we first launch our app, we'll go ahead and try to decide, does this benefit us? If I'm using the app and I'm searching for Milwaukee, and 5 minutes ago, John searched for Milwaukee, I won't have it in my local collection, but it is in the database. And we're going to say the database is faster than the screen scraping. So maybe we don't grab the things locally. Maybe we try to grab it from cache, and if it doesn't work, then we screen scrape.
I mean, if your cache is or yeah, if it doesn't contain, like say your airport code doesn't match the airport code in Firebase.
Right. So what I'll do here then is I'm going to have a public void. We'll call this guy get data. All right, so when I created airport code cache, I'm going to ask that guy to get the data. He's going to try to get the data from cache first. Okay. I think I need to do this as a Boolean. Yeah. I'm going to have it return true if it can get the data, false otherwise, because we'll have to go to the backup plan of screen scraping if we can't get it. Yeah, I'm okay with that. But it also will actually get the data. Try to get data? Try to get data. It'll return true if it worked, and then we'll know we have the data available to us. All right. So what's this? So we're gonna go ahead and have to get ourselves our database reference. So let me steal that from our. Just steal that guy right there. Oh, this is not going to do it in a non-blocking way. That's okay. We'll add some other stuff in here to make it work right. This will still work. I'm just going to have to probably take in some parameters here in a few minutes. But for right now, we will create my database reference. And at this point, I'm doing airport code cache. Call that our endpoint. All right. But there's going to be a secondary thing. We're going to say .child, and then the child is going to be this .airport code. So I'm looking specifically for the things that live in the database at airport code cache / whatever the airport code is, MKE, ATL, something like that. Okay. Now, if we want to, just so we don't run into case sensitivity issues, why don't we always assume this is to uppercase here? So we'll always assume we're storing uppercase versions of our endpoints. So whenever we store it there, we'll have to make sure it's uppercase as well.
So we're looking at the child of the airport code within Firebase.
Yeah, because the airport code, so inside of airport code cache, we're going to have a directory for Milwaukee, a directory for Atlanta, a directory for Cleveland, and inside that will be all the destination strings.
Okay, so we don't want to use like the world airports we already have. Because we have that database of all the airports.
This is for a single airport.
Right.
So this guy right here is airport code cache. He takes in a single airport code. His job is to say, I'm going to look in Firebase, do I already have destinations for this single airport code?
Right, I'm just saying, couldn't we store within, like, we have that world airports, and then within there we have all the airports, and then we have within that, like, the airport name, the city, the region, and then airport code. Can we store within each airport code separate child?
You potentially could.
But are you saying, like, we can just look at whether that cache is completely empty or if it's got that airport code?
Yeah, you probably could make an argument either way. I'm a little concerned about performance if we start messing with too many layers deep into that structure, but that's not a bad idea. It's probably maybe organizationally more correct to have it inside the world airports and just say, does this guy already know about his destinations? But you could just as quickly come up with a conclusion that maybe having a separate cache section also makes sense. Yeah.
So is the point of us doing this so that like the places that you're clicking on most recently or like more frequently you're gonna have in the cache?
Correct. Or the place you've clicked on before. But yeah. So it'll be fast and not have to be slow for the screen scraping.
So if we're always gonna be clicking on Milwaukee, then that's gonna be in the cache.
Correct. Okay. So we'll try to get the data. We're going to go to this endpoint, except, we're going to do a single value thing here. And I'm just going to print out the snapshot first. So I'll say system.out.println. Data snapshot.toString. We'll just see what that guy looks like first. Okay. Then, what's this guy screaming about in here? Oh, this guy returns a Boolean. For right now, I'm just going to have it return nothing. We'll add the Boolean back in a little bit. Okay, so on our detail screen, when we click on one of those guys, before we just immediately load the next screen, we want to go ahead and try to do this lookup thing. And actually, we could do it on our airport list activity, this guy first. And so let's kind of get this first part done, and then we'll take a few minute break. All right. So where's my on click? Okay, so we can do it on the detail screen. So in my detail screen here, down here is where I actually get my airport code, but this is what I do when I can't get it from cache, right? So can't get airport stuff from cache. I'll do this stuff down here. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. So right now, we can't get any airports. But I'm going to go ahead and say airport code cache ACC is equal to new airport code cache. And I'll pass this guy the airport code that we have. And then I'll say acc.try to get data. And this should give us a spit out of what that endpoint looks like in our database. And just so we have our starting point of this, actually, this will be fine. So I'll go ahead and run this. Look at our logcat. I'll dump this guy. Go to my airport list. Doesn't matter what we search for here. So when I click on this, it's not going to actually load those things. It's going to check with the cache first and say, is there a destination for Milwaukee? And actually, let me do something before I forget. So here's my airport code. I'm going to pass in, actually, we're already passing in 2 uppercase, so that's fine. So I'll click on this. And the value for this data snapshot was null. We have no value there. That means it's not in the cache. All right, so we need to go ahead and grab that data snapshot value. Now, the issue here is, let me ask you the question. Before, we had this guy set to return a Boolean. We really want to be able to ask the question here, if data snapshot dot get value is equal to null, we want to return false. Else, we want to return true. Well, first of all, this guy is a this is a function itself, but this isn't going to work anyway. So forget about why this is in red. Why can't I return false or return true here? Yeah, that's going to be hard for me to ask the question I want to actually ask. This stuff here is asynchronous, right? What does it mean for it to be asynchronous? Okay, so it's non-blocking, right? When I call try to get data, I'm expecting a response from this guy, but he's going to do this, and it's going to go off and, like you said, fire and forget. It's going to be running, trying to talk to the database, but it's not going to be able to give me that answer right away. So I need to do all of the logic inside of here. So I need this guy to take in a linked list as well as an array adapter so that I can eventually fill that linked list. And I can notify that array adapter of those changes once I've gotten the data, however I'm going to get the data. Does that make sense? Because I can't just say I'm going to try to get the data. Didn't work, return false. Because it's an asynchronous call. So this guy is going to have to take in, we'll take in an array adapter of strings. We'll take in a linked list of strings. So we're going to need those 2 pieces of information. This guy will return void. So we'll actually switch this back to just get data, because one way or another we're getting data. We're either getting it from cache or we're going to go ahead and do our network lookup thingy-majiggy, right? So right now we'll just print out system.out.println not in cache. We'll put some asterisks before this guy. Else is in cache, load the linked list. Those are the 2 possibilities in there. And after we load the linked list, we'll say AA.notify dataset changed. Because I'm passing in that array adapter. So we're going to pass in the array adapter associated with the list view that we're trying to populate. We're going to say, here's the linked list that doesn't currently have anything in it, but we want there to be something in that. Here's the array adapter that was built in terms of that linked list. Fill up this linked list and tell this guy that he can refresh the list view to show stuff. So right here, if it's not in cache, we're going to have to get the data the old-fashioned way and add it to our cache. If it is in cache, we will fill up our linked list. What's this guy complaining about? Oh, so it wants us to be final in here. That's fine. Final means you can't change the contents of that variable. But that's okay for an object because we can change the contents of the object. We just can't change the value that that object points to. So, all right, so if it's in cache, we want to go ahead and grab those strings, fill up our linked list with those strings, and then tell our array adapter to update. If it's not in cache, we want to do our normal network thing. But we have to do all of that inside of here in terms of this array adapter and this linked list because this code is non-blocking. Does that make sense? I don't have an opportunity to return a value here.
You're gonna move on and execute.
I'm trucking. I could flip a coin and return true or false and hope it was accurate, right? But I don't have the data to be able to honestly answer that one way or another.
Do we have to like throw a weight in there somewhere?
No. Well, we're just going to let it do its thing asynchronously. Yeah, so we're not going to wait. We're purposely saying this is asynchronous. It's not blocking. So I'm just going to let the program do what it was doing before, but I can't rely on returning a value here because I don't know when I'll have that value. Instead, whenever I get my data, I will fill this guy and I will let this guy know it's filled. Whenever I get it, however I get it. I'll do that legwork. So let's just do this last piece just to make sure we're getting a not in cache answer for right now.
So essentially, you're building in a return value, but you're like the class.
Instead of returning it, we're building in the behavior.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're saying, I'll take care of it for you. Just you go do your thing.
Yeah.
You've given me all the stuff I need to populate your list view for you. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. That type of thing. All right, so let me go back to the detail thing real quick. So now this guy's just called get data, and he requires two things from me: my array adapter and my linked list. Now for right now, it should just say there's nothing in cache because we haven't populated it with anything. And let's just see that, and then we'll take our break, and then we'll come back and we'll populate it with something so that the second time we run it, it should load the data a lot quicker because we actually have the stuff already in there. Clear this out.
Why did you comment off the network thread again?
Huh?
Why did you comment off the network thread again?
Because we're not actually getting that data yet. I'm purposely not getting the data from screen scraping.
Just easier to
Yeah, I'm just messing with just caching right now. We'll bring that right back into the mix soon. All right, so I go to filter. Here we go, not in cache. So I need to do my network thread stuff and get my data the old-fashioned way. Then I need to add it to my cache so that the next time it is in cache and I get it quick. Make sense? All right, so let's take 45 seconds. Let's take 10 minutes.